Overload or reset? Do these words sound familiar to you? Where did you hear that? Last year, in March, when Hillary Clinton went to Russia, she presented their foreign minister with a button. On there, it had the word Pereguska. It was supposed to mean reset, meaning we'll mend our relationship with Russia. Well, actually, that word meant overload.
No.
Fortunately, it didn't cause a big diplomatic problem. But that also tells us that we need to learn how to communicate with people of different cultures and who speak different languages. Therefore, I will share a few best practices with you tonight, which would be applicable to work, to interfacing with people. And this club is a typical example. See how many people we have here as members from so many different countries. First, I believe we need to understand cultural differences. But when we do that, we should not be stereotyping people. However, in every culture, there are certain characteristics that we want to be aware of, knowing that every individual might still be different. For example, in America, when we talk to our boss, a lot of times we are just like friends. We address our bosses by their first name. That's not acceptable in some countries, particularly in Asia, for example, where I came from. You have to say Mr., Miss, Mrs., or whatever the case may be. The second thing is respect others. Now that seems to be very straightforward. It's just part of our etiquette. But sometimes it's easy to forget and slip through certain things that we don't even realize. For example, I used to work for a Swiss company. They were Swiss German people, and they talked in Swiss German all the time in the office. The rest of us didn't know anything that they were talking about. I thought it was very rude. Those of you who were not born in the United States, just like myself, have you ever got this question, what is your nationality? I get asked that question all the time, and I just tell them I'm an American citizen. Some people cannot distinguish between ethnicity and nationality. Furthermore, when you say that to people, sometimes they feel being singled out and they feel being discriminated against, even if that's not your intention. I suggest, if you want to know during the conversation, at some appropriate point, you may want to just ask, where did you grow up? The third thing is cultural intelligence. That could encompass a lot of different things. Since we are Toastmasters, we are going to talk about communications, verbal and nonverbal. Verbal communication is important. However, when we talk to someone who may not be a native English speaker, we want to talk Globish. Anybody heard of what Globish is? It's not a real language. It's just English. But English with the basic 1,500 words of vocabulary, which means we use the simplest words so that people can understand. Don't use these big words. That's always good for speaking anyway, to use simple words. Sometimes we use translations, just like the example I gave earlier, but there are tons of other examples. Many years ago, Pepsi wanted to expand their market in Asia, which is a big market. So what did they do? For advertising, they had to translate their slogans. One of my favorites is, "Come alive with Pepsi." That's wonderful. When it was translated into Chinese, it said, "Drinking Pepsi will bring your dead ancestors back from the grave." Be very careful with the meaning of translations, not just the literal meaning. All the connotations count. Something else that we want to be careful with is nonverbal communication. We talk about using gestures, eye contact, right? And symbols and graphics could mean a lot of different things for different people. Has anybody given you a clock as a gift? Anybody received that before? A clock? They give it to people. It's very common, maybe because it means structure or framework, I'm not sure. But they give people a clock on birthdays, on promotions and retirement. I don't really know why they give it to people who retire. They don't need the clock anymore. However, they do it in America. To the Chinese, I am glad that I am not superstitious, because it would mean that the giver of the clock will see the recipient die. Therefore, we have to be careful about the cultural meanings of different things. Eye contact. We want eye contact in Toastmasters when we speak. In some cultures, they don't want to look at you directly. It's not because they are shy or anything. You just feel that it is disrespectful to look at you in the eyes. We have to be aware of that. Body language. In some cultures, they are very expressive with their body language. In others, they are a lot more subtle. Then there is the nodding, part of the effective listening skills that we learn in Toastmasters. But be careful. When somebody is nodding, it may or may not mean that they understand what you're saying. They may mean they're just listening. They may not understand one word of what you're saying. In conclusion, if we want to be good global communicators, we need to understand cultural differences, respect other people, and apply cultural intelligence in what we say and what we do when we are trying to communicate. That way we'll be truly global communicators. Madam Toastmaster.